Let's take a look now at creating some still images. So we're going to move over into the photo studio in Lumion. So in the bottom right corner of your screen, that is where you are going to create all of your presentation content. So you got the photo studio, you've got the movie studio, and then My Lumion. So I'll click on that camera icon, and now you can see we're in the photo mode. So this is our viewport essentially. I can look around, I can adjust my focal length, and I can use my keys again to navigate, the WASD keys, and Q will go up, E goes down, and if I right click and drag, I can look around. Push down the scroll wheel, you get a bit of a pan there, and if you roll the scroll wheel, you get a bit of a zoom. So I'm just going to set up the first shot, will be like right here, and that looks pretty good. So then you can see that what's happening is the build mode sun settings are controlling what's going on in our photo mode. So let's just start now by clicking on store camera. So this is our first camera slot. I click on this top camera and it takes a snapshot. So now no matter what I do, when I orbit around and get around here, I can always click on this camera to get back to it. Make sure you don't click on this, that'll update the camera. So if I want to tweak my view, I can kind of scoot to the right just a little bit and then click on store camera, and it basically overwrites that first shot. All right, so what's going on here is typically in build mode, I would leave my sun up because usually that's the way, it's easiest to work. It's just easy to have the sun turn on where you can see everything. And furthermore, I would go to my Objects tab and make sure that all of my layers are turned on. So whenever I'm creating a rendering, I always make sure that all of my layers are turned on. I'm going to click on deselect all just so I don't have anything selected now. Okay, back to photo mode. So now you can see that this camera, when I click on it, it's now daytime. All right, so that's kind of the way that this works, is that build mode or the environment or the weather of the build mode is controlling what we're seeing in the photo mode and the animation mode. But I can override those, so I can add effects. So in Lumion, we have these effects. So if you click on the stars up here, and you can see we have a bunch of different photo effects. We've got world effects, weather effects, objects, camera, style, artistic, and sketch. So one of the world effects is the sun. When you click on that, you can add the sun. So now you are controlling this specific view. So you can just slide things around and get these different effects. You can change the sun heading. Let's see, you get a bunch of shadows in there, maybe raise it up again a bit, like that. And the sun brightness, usually the default setting's good there. So that's just one example of an effect that you can add. And now this is overriding, like if I make the sun go down, this is overriding what is happening in my build mode. So when I go back to build mode is always, sun up. And when I go into camera mode or photo mode, my sun is turned down per camera view. All right, so you can add more effects. You can stack effects, like you can get higher quality shadows, global illumination, make the lights bounce around, and there's just all kinds of different effects. If you're doing a night rendering with the moon, weather, it makes it really easy just to turn the rain on. Now it's raining. It's easy to remove these too. I click on the wrench and click on remove. Go back to my effects and you can make it snow. So all kinds of options here to set up these different scenarios. All right. So take a moment, you can go through, and when I first was learning Lumion, it was like overwhelming. I just wanted to drop every single effect in there and just see what's going to happen. But you'll learn to, have some favorite effects and go for, certain effects to accomplish certain things. So you've got like camera effects like depth of field can be pretty cool to kind of blur out the background. That's kind of slick. You can mess with the focal distance and then get the get those trees to kind of blur, get this stuff to kind of blur. Just gives different effects. Depends on what you're going for. All right. Now, with that said, well, let's goof around with just a few more effects, like sketch effects. So something like watercolor. It's real easy just to, slide around the accuracy, the radial accuracy, and you just get these different things happening to acquire these different effects. Now, it is overwhelming at times to really know what to do with these effects. I mean, you can accomplish something pretty slick pretty quickly, but it's nice to have presets and just stacks that are going to work, or I call them effect stacks, because you start getting all these different effects layered on each other to accomplish a certain look. So we have provided some effect stacks. So to load those, all you have to do is click on this wrench up here and click on File, Load. So I can load an effect stack, and I've got these. Oh, let's see. I think these are in our assets. Yeah. So these are in your tutorial files. We've got oil painting, we've got photoreal day, photoreal night, and watercolor. So if I just load up photoreal day, just like that, this is kind of a standard issue photorealistic rendering. Now you can see we've got 6 different pages of effects. So you can, navigate through there and choose, like, I like, volumetric sunlight. That doesn't always need to be there. Volume clouds, I think, are cool. Those kind of, it seems like volumetric clouds kind of affect the sun a bit. Also just clouds in general. So you get these like layered effects of clouds. I think the skies in Lumion are really cool. Horizon clouds, again, layering these different clouds. And then color correction and analog color lab. So like analog color lab, you can choose like from these different like Instagram type effects. I think 0.8 or number 8 is really one of my favorites, and maybe I'll just dial it down so it's not so strong. So once you've loaded your effect stack, you can still tweak it around. You've got color correction. The sun is on, so now you can just change that around, get the sun to where you need it to be. And then we've got also reflections. Now, reflection planes are really important. So I'm going to click on this Edit Reflection Plane and show you what that means. We'll click there. So I need to go in and add reflection planes. Notice that, let me find a good example of the reflection. So right now, when I'm looking at this window, I'm not really seeing the reflection of this woman in the glass. And so, what this is based on is the reflections of this glass is based on this ball that just creates generic reflections from one point in the model. So if you want to have accurate reflections, you need to add reflection planes. I do that by clicking on this plus sign down here. So now any reflective material is going to kind of highlight in green, and I can click on it, and it's added that reflection plane. So now I'm going to get a perfect reflection. I think you can even see the cars reflecting now. So we're all good. So if you look over here, you can see like the reflections in here. It looks really kind of generic. Let's click on the plus sign and add a reflection plane. And now you can see that those reflections are perfect. So that's critical. Any reflective material that you want to render out perfectly with a reflection needs to have a reflection plane. Same thing happening here. Click on the plus sign and click there. Click on the plus sign, click on that material. So I've added my reflection planes, and you can see those are just kind of at different depths. Okay, so we're good there. I'll click on the check, say OK, and go back to that camera view. And so, now we're getting these perfect reflections, which if we blow this thing up, it is going to make a huge difference. Okay, so now there's one. Now, if you were to build your own effect stack, you can click on this and go to File and choose Save. You save this out. You might do like photoreal day, night, warm, cool, different sketchinesses. It depends on what you're going for. All right, so now I'm just going to add some more scenes here. So I might do something like this, kind of like come down low, and then take a snapshot, and then maybe I'll take one from the other side here. All right, like that. And then I'll use my focal length to trim that up a bit. Take a snapshot there. And then, yeah, maybe like an overhead of the patio. That's kind of the hot spot there, like that. And let's see, 2-point perspective is going to be off. It seems like as soon as you get up high, you want 2-point perspective off. It starts to actually distort. All right, so we'll add that. And so now you can go through here, and let me go to the second one. On this, I think I'm going to add an effect. I'll go to File, Load, and I can do maybe Photoreal Night. So now, like this, the sun settings are dialed in a certain way. I can adjust my camera, and the material is just a little bit strong, so maybe we'll come back to that one. Another one is if I go to my next camera, I can then load another effect stack like this. This oil painting. It's just kind of different. It gives you like this kind of a sketchy effect. I don't know. I'm not sure where that comes in, but I think it looks kind of cool, and it could be good for marketing material, something like that. And then this one, I would load the effect stack of Photoreal Day. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and turn off our 2-point perspective. I just slide that to the left, and we're good to go there. Cool. So then let's go back to this one. I didn't really care for the way that turned out, just with the lights the way they are. Instead of getting back into editing those right now, because it's just going into build mode, editing the material, I'm just going to load a different effect stack. So I'll go here, and let's go with our watercolor, just like that. So one of the big ideas with Lumion is that we're completely eliminating post-processing. These effects would, in the past, have been completed using Photoshop, any number of different plugins or rendering programs. And the nice thing is that everything is happening in Lumion. So instead of kicking out an image, running filters, post-processing in Photoshop, it's all happening here. Now, in order to export these images out, we can either do one at a time, where you just click on one of these resolutions down low, or you can turn Save Photo Set on and then hit Render, and it will kick out all of your images in one swoop. So very efficient. Once you get these set up, you're good to go. So take a stab at that. Use some of our effect stacks, and then also use some of the effects up here. You click on the stars, and you can kind of work through and add things. You really can't hurt anything. You just throw a new effect on, play with the sliders, and see what happens. And then if you don't like it, you click on the wrench and click Remove. If you're not sure, you can hide it. If you hide it, it'll just kind of go away briefly. Then you can unhide it to bring it back. So that's how you play with effects and save your effect stacks and all that. So like I say, the best way to learn is to just get in there, dig around, and experiment and see what you come up with. So before we get too much further and end this tutorial, I just want to save my file. In Lumion Pro, you go to the disk here, and the way that you save a file is you click on the Export Full Scene tab, and then click on Export Scene. Click on that. I'm going to go to my desktop temp and save this as, I'm just going to call this BD Brightman Designs _ Clayton GastroPub, and hit enter. So now I've saved that file. Now, when I'm ready to open that file, I would click on Import Full Scene and click on Import Scene and grab it there. So you don't have that traditional File Save As menu or File Open. You have to go through this disk files area and either export to save or import to open. So that's the way that you can store a Lumion file locally on your server, share your work with your colleagues. Everybody can kind of work on that file at the same time. So in the next tutorial, make sure you check that one out. We're going to create some animations. Again, we're going to look at effect stacks, and we're close to wrapping this thing up.